because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Avarice Podcast. My name's Devin. This is the new flavor. I might be bringing sugar, but don't call me your neighbor. What's up, guys? Today, we're going to dig into some more Halloween shit. Surprise, surprise. So, today, the question I am pondering is Loomis's involvement in sort of the creation of Michael, possibly the escape. I'm not upfront. I want to say that I don't even necessarily believe anything that I'm about to say. It's just an idea. We're going to live in what if land today. We're going to wander off the beaten path and just speculate. I don't want anybody getting butthurt. What are you doing to my Loomis? Because I know that fans of the franchise hold Dr. Loomis in a very high regard. He is a cornerstone. Depending on who you talk to, he might be the most important part of the franchise. He's definitely second or third, character-wise. Michael, Laurie have got to be in there. And he plays an important role, especially in the first one. And some of the stuff that is left ambiguous about Michael could be explained if there's some Loomis fuckery going on. So obviously, Loomis didn't instill the murderous impulse in Michael. He had that before Loomis ever met him because he committed that murder when he was 6, killing his sister Judith. But the way that Loomis always described him, the Michael's appearance on their first meeting, doesn't seem to coincide with what you see when Michael's dad pulls that mask off him and he's standing in the front yard in the opening scene of the original Halloween. He seems bewildered and confused, and it's not a blank, pale, emotionless face and the devil's eyes. That's just not what you see on that kid there. So is it possible that Loomis had some type of preconceived notion about Michael and basically kept feeding him this rhetoric about how evil he was? I know what you are. I know what you're gonna... Is it possible that he kind of reverse psychologied him and fed him this bullshit and told him he was evil for so long that he eventually became evil? That's kind of out there. I get it. But what are the elements of Michael that are most confusing or least explained? We don't know how he actually escaped Smith's Grove on the very first day, or on the very first night. When he gets out and steals the car from the nurse and Loomis, it's never explained how he actually got out, what the procedure was, where was the fault in the security. Did somebody let him out? Did he have a plan? Was this a long, thought-out process? But you could also point to the fact that Loomis knew that they had this meeting coming up, and if Loomis had some nefarious motivations, he might have helped Michael escape. He could have told him of some flaw in the security. Who knows what the measures that he would have taken to do that. But if you read his reactions, when they pull up, first of all, he's very stoic and quiet and sharp, short answers with the nurse when he's talking to her, when they're on their way up there. Something's on his mind, and you could attribute that to him being so distraught over the idea of Michael getting released because he's this evil being, the Shape, that he is just overwhelmed with the pressure of the moment, the potential that could happen, and he's just bouncing that back and forth in his head. Or you could say he's aware that something is going to happen, that Michael's going to try to escape, and there's all this shit up in the air, and maybe he's nervous about that, anticipating what they're going to stumble upon when they get to the hospital. Maybe he's slightly expecting this. Again, I'm not saying this is what I think happened. It's just a possibility. Okay, don't get your panties in a bunch. The fact that he drives the car away and nobody seems to know how he learned to drive. He's been locked up from age 6 till age 21, and he gets in that car and takes off like a veteran. Who had more FaceTime and more communication with Michael than Loomis? It seems like the most likely candidate for teaching Michael to drive would have been Loomis. It seems like... Okay, so they pull up. Loomis sees all the people walking around. He gets this kind of startled look on his face. Maybe he wasn't exactly expecting Michael to let everybody out. Maybe he's shocked that it actually succeeded. Nonetheless, he tells her to stop the car and wait here. He specifically tells her to wait in the car. And he gets out to go fumble fuck around with the gate. This could have been a plan. He could have said, I'm going to tell her to stay in the car. I'm going to get out and go over there. You come and steal the car. Michael leaps onto the roof like a cat, like almost immediately. He smashes the glass or first he reaches in and grabs her. The window's down. She's a smoker. Maybe Loomis would have known that. I doubt it. She moves over to the other side. He smashes the window with the wrench that's glued to his hand. She climbs out of the car. He hops in and he's off like Smokey and the Bandit. He pays no nevermind to Loomis. He doesn't attempt to interact with Loomis at all, which is a topic for a whole nother video or podcast about the dynamic in their relationship, what you actually see happen in the films when Loomis comes around and Michael's there, etc. Anyway, then Loomis runs over. The evil's gone. The evil's gone from here. There's nothing really in that statement that indicates that he's a part of it. He's just hammering that message. But that also, his motivations seem slightly... He is very concerned about building the legend of Michael, the aura of Michael. This larger-than-life figure, the darkest eyes you've ever seen, the shape of a man, pure and simply evil. He really wants people to have that image in their mind. And when you see Michael get out, that's not necessarily how he behaves. He does some fucked up shit, I'm not going to deny that. But he takes his time. He ignores a lot of people. There's a lot of shit he just plain doesn't fuck with and doesn't attempt to get involved in. The kids he leaves alone. He never tried to do anything to his parents. He had standing there with that butcher knife in his hand. The inmates at Smith's Grove. He may have known that would be a distraction and would get Loomis to get out of the car, but he basically, it was a bloodless coup. If you want to look at it, it's never directly mentioned, but he escapes without killing anybody else because no other bodies are attributed to him. He doesn't get any other murders, any kills, anything. Nobody says that he killed anybody else. So he killed nary a guard or an inmate in the process of escaping Smith's Grove. That's a bit fishy, like that's weird. I know that in the first one he's very ethereal. He's somewhat ghost-like. You even have the scene in the backyard where Laurie's looking at him and it cuts to her face and then it cuts back and he's gone. We are left to wonder if he walked away or straight up disappeared, but the implication is that he straight up disappeared. And there's only one other scene in the entire franchise I can think of where they do that, and that's in 4 at the restaurant when Loomis goes to shoot him and he pulls the trigger and he's just gone. He's disappeared out of the picture. So I don't know if you could try to say maybe like he just fucking teleported himself out to the yard, but how did all the other inmates get out? It's some of Michael's behaviors just don't line up with the way that Loomis is trying to sell him. And that could be because maybe Loomis has delusions of grandeur and he's trying to build himself up to be this big hero. Thus, he needs a great villain to conquer. Maybe he gets off on being right. Maybe he wants Michael to get out into the world and prove him right, so that he feels vindicated in all of his concern, and he can be the one who stops it and saves the day, and everybody, put him up on your shoulders, parade him around the room. These are things that I feel are quite possible. And I forgot to say, I'm only talking about Loomis in Halloween 1 right now. None of this plays beyond Halloween 1. There's no way you could possibly think that Loomis is involved in any of it beyond Halloween 1. Well, I digress. I haven't watched Halloween 2 with that perspective in mind. I haven't tried to observe Loomis's behavior closely in 2 and see if there's any connections I can draw. But off the top of my head, I don't think they're there the same way they are in the original. But the original is left so ambiguous and vague. That's the point of it. So that all these years later, we're still trying to find all these angles and ways in. And we're never going to put our finger on it. But that's why it lives on. It's not cut and dry and explained like a Freddy or a Jason or a Ghostface. It's never supposed to be defined. That's what I'm learning the farther I get into this process. I used to dig through for details trying to put my finger on the motivation. What exactly is Michael? Why exactly does he do what he does? And then I realized recently, not that long ago, that that's actually the point, is that you're never supposed to know. And so I'm troubling myself less with those details now and just observing more subjectively. Okay, so after Michael escapes, Loomis is convinced that Michael is going straight back to Haddonfield. I don't know why he thinks Michael would even know how to get to Haddonfield. Michael got locked up when he was 6. Do you think he has any idea what roads to take, the geographic relativity of where he is now compared to Haddonfield? So he shouldn't know how to drive. He shouldn't know how to get to Haddonfield. And there's not any real particular reason that he should be drawn back to Haddonfield specifically. If he is this purely, simply evil character that Loomis is portraying him as. He didn't kill anybody at the hospital. He didn't kill the nurse. He didn't try to attack Loomis. He busted a window and he stole the car and he bolted. So is it maybe Loomis told him to go to Smith or to Haddonfield and told him how to get there? Of all the people that Michael would interact with on a day-to-day basis, who would know better and would actually be able to express it to him and be close enough? Like, it's hard to imagine that Michael was just holding court with all the other inmates and listening to their troubles. I imagine nobody talked to him, and obviously he didn't talk to them. So all this information came from somewhere. Is he going to the library and looking at atlases? I guess that's a possibility. But he is said to have not spoken a word and just stared at a wall. You would think if he was going to the library and checking out resources on geography and driving and all that, that would get mentioned somewhere throughout the course of the story. So I doubt that's what was taking place. So he got that inkling from somewhere. Now I know that we can attribute that to all the ethereal shit and he's going back to where it started and all the stuff that we actually believe is what happened. But you can't deny that the thread is there for Loomis to have had a hand in these incidents. The tombstone. Why would Michael go get the tombstone? And how did Loomis know to go look for the tombstone? Michael has never communicated to Loomis. It's all been one-sided conversations. What could Michael have possibly done to convey to Loomis that he would want to go to his sister's gravesite and steal her tombstone? Well, it's not necessarily assumed that Loomis knew that the tombstone would be stolen, but Loomis, for some reason, knew that he should go to that fucking graveyard and hear the story about, Charlie Sheen's in Russellville. But why the fuck is that where you would go? If you think that he's going home and he's supposed to be this psycho killer, death has come to your small town, Sheriff, and I want it fucking sizzling hot. Why is that the first place you go check for him? the fucking graveyard? You think that he's just going to be sitting in front of Judith's tombstone, crisscross applesauce, crying his eyes out? Like, I don't know. It's weird to me that everywhere Michael goes, Loomis is exactly one step behind him, when he should not have that much insight into the psyche of Michael, because Michael does not speak to him. It's literally a blank canvas. So while he may be correct about the evil and his soul being gone, him not being able to be saved, he should be locked up forever, he may be correct about all of that. There is no way that he would know that what Michael's plan is that straightforward. He finds the truck. Maybe Loomis told him, hey, find somebody in a mechanic's outfit or something like that. Kill them, throw them in the bushes, steal their clothes so that you can get around more low key. Maybe he should have stolen their car too, because you're driving around all day and night in a for official state use only car with a caged off back seat. It's a little bit suspicious wearing a fucking Halloween mask. So he makes that first kill. Loomis finds it. He goes and steals the tombstone. Loomis finds it. Like, it's I don't want to say it's convenient, because it's not like it's bad writing. It doesn't play that way. But there is some coincidences in there, unless that's just the most straightforward Occam's razor, cut and dry way to tell the story. You hit your beats that way. When Loomis is talking to Sheriff Brackett outside the hardware store where Michael stole the mask, the rope, and a couple of knives, is it possible? Okay, I don't even want to say is it possible. How is it possible that Loomis did not see Michael across the street at the intersection waiting to turn? It's not like he is looking at something he's never seen before. He was just in that car last night. He knows Michael stole that car. That car has not yet been found. He would have his eye out for that specific vehicle. It should stick out like a sore thumb. It does seem a little convenient, again, that he barely misses seeing Michael, almost on purpose, turns his back right when Michael drives by. When they find the dog in the Myers house. First of all, he keeps going back to the Myers house to look for Michael. And in the beginning, when Michael first sees Lori and Tommy, he is at the Myers house. That is where he actually went. So is it possible that Loomis told him to go to the Myers house and that he'd meet him there or something? Maybe he's misleading Michael. Michael thinks that Loomis is going to help him, build his new life or change his identity, whatever the fuck, and Loomis is actually going to rearrest him and proclaim to be correct about all the shit he's been popping off at the mouth on for the last 15 years. So Loomis goes to the Myers house to look for Michael. We know that that's where Michael was before he became infatuated with observing Lori and Tommy and following this group of friends, and then he sets off on that tangent and he's off killing people and shit. Meanwhile, Loomis is still waiting at the Myers house. Loomis really, once shit starts going down, once it gets nighttime, Loomis really stays in close proximity to the Myers house, like he's expecting Michael to be there. And he finds the car very nearby the house. So it may even be possible that Michael went to return to the house and saw Loomis, is like, I'm having too much fun with this. Fuck you, I'm out. Like, maybe Loomis was involved in the setting free in the initial part, and then maybe Michael started to run wild on him and go off procedure and change the plan. And that's why Loomis seems to have no idea where he's at. Another thing is, how did he not see the fucking car parked so close to him? He's supposed to be looking for these things. And he sees it at night parked down the street, but doesn't see it in broad daylight. When those are I'm not trying to tear this movie apart. I'm just pointing at little things that's like, what the fuck exactly was Loomis doing? When him and Brackett find the dog in the Myers house, the first time they're going to tour around it, and Loomis is so convinced that Michael ate the dog. There would have been no circumstance during his entire incarceration when he would have gotten his hands on a dog to eat one for you to know that he likes to eat dogs. That wasn't a part, like, he was 6 years old when he locked up. I doubt that he was eating dogs prior to that, because that would probably get mentioned and people wouldn't look at it as such a drastic change in personality. Now, you could look at that two ways. Is that just more of him building Michael's legend? Just anything I see that's destroyed or fucked up, I'm going to say Michael did it. Blame Michael for everything. Like Obama. Or Trump. Whoever. Just that, everything I see that's wrong, that's that person's fault. Or did he school Michael a bit? Did he tell him, hey, you get out there and you're hungry, go in somebody's backyard and steal their fucking dog and you can eat it? Is that also possible? Because he's so convinced when they see it. There's no fettering. He doesn't waver at all. Brackett says probably a dog or a skunk, and Loomis goes, he got hungry.
He got hungry.
Like, that was part of what he taught him. Like, if you get hungry, kill a dog. Oh, there's a dead dog. He got hungry. That's the answer. I've kind of already addressed the fact that he's constantly perpetuating, building this monumental evil force up in everybody's minds that they have actually not observed with themselves. Brackett doesn't buy his shit, really, until he sees that Annie's dead, and he's like, what did you do? I didn't do anything. I did nothing. I did nothing. But the description he gives of Michael doesn't seem to exactly fit what we see. He seems biased, or like he's trying to sell us on something. Again, not saying Michael doesn't do some fucked up shit. He does kill Lindsay's dog. He kills Annie. He kills Linda and Bob. He tries to kill Lori. He killed his sister way back when. But when I hear the blackest eyes, purely and simply evil, no sense of right or wrong, he doesn't exactly behave that way when he's out in the world. He more or less is kind of curious and wandering around, and then something triggers it and he goes for it. And then a lot of the other kills that happen are just because people come to him after he's already started killing. It's not really like he set out to go kill them, especially Lori. Is it possible that if Loomis did not help Michael escape, that Michael escaped because he was trying to avoid further abuse from Loomis? So this is, let's say Loomis isn't actually involved, didn't teach him how to drive, didn't do any of that. But let's say that Loomis is verbally abusive to him and constantly beating him down and constantly threatening, I'm going to make sure you never get out of here, and all that kind of shit. I don't know why Michael wouldn't speak up and try to defend himself, why he's mute in this scenario. But in the car ride, the nurse asks what they're going to give what they're going to give Michael when he goes before the judge. And I off the top of my head, I can't think of what the fuck it is. God damn it. Such and such, 200 milligrams, whatever he says. And she says he'll barely be able to sit up. And Loomis says that's the idea. Okay, so now picture that Loomis is abusing Michael in the fashion that I'm speaking of, and is now about to take him before the judge, completely whacked out of his mind on sedatives, to where he can't even plead his own case, he can't do anything but sit there with a blank, pale, emotionless face and black eyes because he is just whacked out of his mind. And at that hearing, they're going to sentence him to stay locked up as an adult. This is the deciding moment. So instead of going through that, he decides that he's going to escape, because if Loomis gets there to pick him up and gets those drugs fed into him and takes him before the judge, may never get out of this situation. He's now an adult. The stakes are raised. These are things that you could consider possibilities. Just saying. So, of course, when we move into the other ones, Michael gets a clear, defined motivation and all this kind of weird shit gets added in. But in the first movie, there are little... So the driving, how did he escape? How did he learn how to drive? How did he know where to go? How did he know how to get back to Haddonfield? Can he even read? He was 6 when he got locked up. That's borderline on how well you can read. And I doubt he had a tutor. So can he even read to get back? How does he know how to work the shit in the vehicle? How does Loomis know where he's going? He's so sure of it. Why does Loomis go to the graveyard? What suspicion would he have that Michael would be anywhere near Judith's grave? Why does he hang around the Myers house so much? Was there a plan for them to meet up there, but Michael got distracted by Lori and went on down the sidewalk on another, almost like an ADD kid or something, like, oh my God, squirrel. And he's just off on that track and became hyper-focused on this new activity and forgot all about Loomis. Fuck Loomis, I want to do this new fun thing. I think it's something that needs to be considered. You can call me an idiot. You can say I ruined your childhood. Don't talk about my Loomis like that. I'm open for criticisms on this, but I think that the hints are there, the little threads to weave some fabric together. And I think that's basically going to conclude my evidence on that theory about Loomis. There are actually... I take that back. Donald Shanks said in an interview that the scene in Halloween 5 where they drop the chain on Michael and Loomis beats the shit out of him with that 2x4 until he collapses on top of Michael, and that would have actually been the best end for that movie instead of the jail cell with the fucking mask still on and what we got, Man in Black shit. But Donald Shanks said when Donald Pleasence landed on him while they were filming that scene and they yelled cut, Pleasence whispered to Shanks, "I get it now. I abused you as a child." So Donald Pleasence had actually kind of arrived at that through becoming familiar with the character he played. It took him until Halloween 5, but he started getting an inkling like, fuck, maybe Loomis had something to do with the making of this monster, the building of this machine. Maybe he's not as innocent in everything as he proclaims to be. And I find that particularly interesting just because nobody knew the Donald Pleasence character the Dr. Loomis character better than Donald Pleasence for obvious reasons. And that is a conclusion he came to on his own while filming a scene that is very cathartic in nature, where he's just releasing all this and beating Michael with this fucking 2x4. And then as he collapses on him, it dawns on him, as he collapses on Michael, it dawns on Donald Pleasence that possibly the character I'm playing, that just beat the shit out of Michael with this 2x4, has abused him in the past and might be culpable in the events that have taken place since. That's all I'm saying. Loomis might be culpable. You can hate it or love it. Like, well, me and Nancy are still looking for the other half of my head. Let's try that again. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good shit. Until the next time, this is Devin signing off and saying, be easy.